discussion which is quite pompously titled Manufactured Realities, Triumph of the Film. And I say that with a sense of humor because we in the non-fiction filmmaking business or practice have this claim to representing reality or actuality, and of course this completely constructed binary between fiction and non-fiction, which we are forever deconstructing. This is something which will come up again in our conversation tomorrow, which is called When Three Cameramen Meet, between Navroz Contractor, Rahul Roy, and I'll be moderating. Three cameramen working almost entirely in non-fiction practice. So this entire construction of what we want to be taken as real is what we are going to talk about. It says Triumph of the Film, referring to Leni Riefenstahl's 1936 propaganda film Triumph of the Will, and most of us know what it's about. And the entire construction of it, which is like a fiction film where you have these aerial shots of Hitler's aircraft flying through clouds, elaborate sequences of flying through clouds, which is early days of aviation, early days of cinema, with this grandiose, heroic music by Wagner playing on the soundtrack, and arriving, landing, and then driving through the city of Nuremberg, leading to the Nuremberg conference, where the final question or the final solution was discussed before the as one of the main points towards the Holocaust. And the film doesn't refer to it at all. It talks about it as this grand event that happened, where nationality and nationalism and nation building were discussed, and the language of the filmmaking, which is, you know, a prime epitome example of non-fiction filmmaking, is completely fictional, is made, constructed like a fiction film. So therefore, Manufactured Realities, Triumph of the Film. Our panelists today are Madhusree Dutta and Joshy, both eminent filmmakers, and with a specific take on the non-fiction medium. There is a certain element of playfulness with film language that we find in their practice, as you'll see. We're screening Joshy's film on the last day, which is called A Poeticity and a Footballer, and Joshy does this quite frequently in his filmmaking, where he foregrounds himself and very often placing himself within frame, where you highlight the fact that it is my subjective take on something. And Madhusree will also talk about this using a set of clips from her own work. Madhusree is a dear friend, old collaborator. We've worked together a lot. And she's a filmmaker, curator of inter-disciplinary art practice. Her non-fiction films on urbanology, identity politics, and contemporary culture-scapes have been widely screened and awarded nationally and internationally. They're also part of the syllabi at various university departments and study centers. She's won the jury of various national and international film festivals, including the Berlinale in 2015. And she's the former executive director of Majlis Center for Arts and Initiatives.
I can't believe it was similarly to read.
Of course. And Joshy Joseph is a filmmaker. His bio just says makes both fictional and non-fictional, personal and political films. But what is really fascinating for me is that there's a very, like I said, a very individual language to his filmmaking. Joshy works with Films Division, is based in Calcutta, and we'll today in our discussion, you know, try and look at non-fiction practice and this entire construction of what we call real, you know, which is, I think, a preoccupation with both of you, you know. So I'll start with you, Madhu, and you have always had take on performativity in film. And what's interesting to me, again, as both of you panelists, is that you've engaged with poetry at different points of time. Joshy, you also use poetry in your films. Yeah, so I'd actually like to bring you in, Madhu, at this point, and your entire take on reality, realism, and what is real and how we show it in film is something we'd like to start talking about. So it's our time to sing for our supper.
So yeah, I'll do that. And it's your job to stop me, because as you know, if I start on real and reality, then there's no
But you
end
might
to
scold
it.
me, so we'll see.
Well, thanks for starting with the really mentioning the cliche that is Leni Riefenstahl about manufacturing reality or whatever. Because I would like to start with one which is even 40 years earlier than that. That is Méliès, who was a French magician and filmmaker of the silent era films. Many of you must have seen his iconic film Journey to the Moon. So on the last years of 19th century, he goes to see one of the Lumiere shows. He was yet to become a filmmaker, he was still a magician, and he goes to see, and he is writing back as a review of Lumiere films, and he says that it was, I was all the time watching the audience. It was interesting to see the audience was not impressed by the moving people. Workers coming out, leaving the factory, this and that. What they were interested in and impressed was and clapping through was all the scenes of moving inanimate things. That is dust flying, ship sailing, train moving, because that is what they have not seen in operas and performances. So that is what was exciting about them, about the moving image experience. So it proves that it is not a performance, it is real, because dust is flying. People move even in theatre, people move even in opera. And in fact, they move much more realistically in operas than the silent era cinema, because silent era cinema, they don't talk. And they move quite, affectedly. So that is the dust flying syndrome. Since then, we always want a proof that you want me to believe that this is not contrived, this is not your imagination, then show us a proof of dust flying. And if the dust fly in your frame, then I will take you on face value. Then I will take it as an evidential image and not a performative image. And the problem starts much before Leni Riefenstahl only made a narrative out of this syndrome or out of this expectation, which was since then is completely ingrained in our relationship with watching moving images.
And watching propaganda images.
Watching propaganda is one, escapism is another one. There can be various take on that.
Sure.
So basically our relationship with moving image is that dust flies or not. It's not that you will not take it if the dust doesn't fly, but we'll take it differently than if the dust flies. It doesn't matter who the filmmaker is, what is the agenda is, what is the structure has been, how the images are assembled together, what are the sources of the images, but the main signifier is something is flying through some inanimate object is flying through the frame or not. And that is the template, and then various templates over the centuries have been developed. And so another way of, are also classically spoken about this image is, as you know, that actuality.
Sure.
That it is actual. Real and actual are completely two different things. So, and actuality, proving actuality depends on dust flying or not, but the hunger for actuality, how it has entered the screen culture, is something we need to worry about, because that has never left us alone through the century and more.
No, and it continues and has become a language of what is accepted as far as non-fiction filmmaking is concerned. And but just to deviate for a bit, it's interesting that this entire self-reflexivity, this entire reflecting on what we are doing and that we are engaging in this very, very contrived practice of creating reality is something that Phalke does in all those undated clips where you see him editing, which are completely staged, where he's telling his assistants to do something or the other, you know, where you can see checking a strip of film, winding the film on a winder, and you can see that it could possibly be shot on a set where there's a tiger skin lying draping a sofa.
Yeah.
And there's then 1929 Dziga Vertov, Man with a Movie Camera, which is all about him saying, look, I am making this film, I love creating moving images and I'm going to do it for you, even including these shots where I lie down on the train tracks to take this shot. and play with your sense of expectation and horror as to what's going to happen to the filmmaker.
Yeah.
And
so moving yourself into the most
Into the frame.
contrived of the narrative itself then becomes a language of proving actuality or reality of it. Since you started with performance, I'll just take 1 minute from you,
Sure.
is that strangely of late I started thinking that it is actually a performance art of the highest order. It is very keen to theatre. It is in theatre is a believer's practice according to me. If you refuse to believe that a plywood pillar is not a Mughal harem, then the game is over before even the third bell is rang. Right?
Mughal what?
Mughal palace.
Okay.
Here is a plywood pillar, but this is a Mughal palace. Now we will unwind the story. Now, if before the third bell you said, oh no, this is plywood and I will not take it, then the game is over. Then there is nothing, good, bad, indifferent, no performance is possible. Documentary filmmaker has that quality into it, that it is also a believer's game. You will have to show some of the signs of belief system.
So you're talking about a willful suspension of disbelief while watching both theatre and film.
So more, I don't know, maybe I'm aging and losing touch with practice, but more I'm thinking actually documentary making is a highly stylized and codified performance art.
Sure, and you know, working as a camera person, very often, and Joshy, this is something you will relate to, that you're told that, okay, I need to show this person going to work. So you show him coming down the steps, then you show him going out, then you take a shot where he turns the corner, he hails an auto, he sits down, which is all staged shot by shot, you know, and very often, and it drives me nuts when filmmakers say, this doesn't work, he looked at the camera, you know. So I'm like, okay, we are doing this elaborate staging, but the camera is not there, you know. The camera is not there, and so it's interesting for me, you know, as to how we are telling these stories which are meant, which we pretend or we want the audience to imagine are real. You know, but we're completely constructing them frame by frame. Is that something you'd like to comment on?
You will see the film on the last day if you have the patience. It's a 1 hour 45 minutes film. And when this film won the national award last year, so in all the Malayalam channels, you know, they were telling, Joshy Joseph won the national award for a short film of 1 hour 45 minutes. So, because the short film is a synonym for documentaries, you know. And now when they saw the first chapter, they said, is it a fiction or non-fiction? So this is a confusion which continues even with me. And so this film, it's about a poet who wanted to make a film on the iconic footballer P.K. Banerjee. So one of my friends, Vidyarthi Chatterjee, you know, we are friends. So he is a film critic and also he translates well from Bengali to English. So he had translated Gautam's poems into English and Gautam was not keeping well. So we went to his hospital room with Vidyarthida. So I started my shooting with, the first day shooting with Vidyarthida reciting the English translation of Gautam's poems. Now since Vidyarthi Chatterjee is a critic, he is burdened with the meaning of the film which is not made. So the entire thing is affected. From the very first shot, now that the whole thing is affected. Now what to do? And Gautam is not keeping well. Now you cannot interfere. And because Vidyarthida was affected, Gautam got affected. Now 2 hours of shooting. Now I don't know what to do because Gautam is not well. So the next day, I tried to do something which clicked. So I told Gautam that I will be coming half an hour late. And since I have seen Gautam's films, I also knew how to really trick him down. So I told him I will be sending my camera to camera, taking some establishing shots. So kuch karo. So it convinced him. And I was just hiding outside the room. And my cameraman, you know, who looks like a bechara, you know, that he will be actually shooting the entire thing. From his body language, you cannot make out whether he is shooting.
Is this Mrinmoy or
Manesh Madhav.
Okay.
So now we did this establishing shot exercise for 40 minutes. After a point, you know, Gautam started calling me, so I had to go in. That day evening, we saw the rushes. I could really see that I can now make a film making this as the fulcrum. So 1 hour 45 minutes was expanded from this just 40 minutes unaffected footage.
Sure.
So when we stage reality, the moment I mean, by now we are not innocent viewers, because all the time we are attacked by visuals and
True.
so even through mobile. So we don't really accept anything. We bounce it back.
Yeah.
We don't hear anything. We bounce it.
No, you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. We are not innocent, ignorant viewers anymore. And when you're teaching, let's say, students the basics of photography, they all know the basics of composition. Because you have a screen on which you're looking, and you have learned by looking at all these images around you, which are always in your face, you get your basic frames right most of the time, So the visual literacy is much higher. What you do with it is another question altogether, So moving on, Madhu, I think we should look at some of the excerpts that you have prepared, for the talk, and then unpack them, look at them, discuss them. So,
We want to do that, or should I give just a small introduction to it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this whole business of confusion between actuality and reality, and also using actuality as a kind of comfort food to actually sell a narrative of what you believe is real, which is highly subjective because it is your take on the real. But if you cover it, wrap it with the comfort food of actuality, then it will go as an objective real. So this has been bothering me for almost as soon as I actually made my first film, which is a hugely actuality film. I live in Behrampara, and which became a cult film, which became a success. So it really bothered me a lot because I could see that it has all the classical wrapping of actuality, dust flying thing. But actually I was talking about my very deep-seated, well-argued left ideology. I was not talking about any objectivity, but it looked very objective. It became very popular. It became a cult film even now. I made many films after that. I am not known by those. I am only known by my first film. Because it has the right dose of actuality film. And so since then I decided to intervene with the actuality as much as possible through various strategies. So one of the strategies, can we have the cement mixing sequence?
Yeah. Sorry? Yeah, we should, I think, reduce the lights to be able to see. Is there a clip called cement mixer trucks? Just check. Yeah. So just prepare that.
You will have to show it from the beginning. It's very, very sharply cut, so you cannot miss frames.
Yeah, so as soon as the lights are dimmed, and we can stay with this, or should we go fully dark? Just open the shutter, we'll see how bright it is.
Is my head coming in? Okay, no.
No. Yeah, this is good. This much is okay. Thank you. You want to sit in front?
पीछे आदमी लोग चींटी दिखते हैं।
That's it. Now,
Stop there. Okay. Okay.
Well, I think it's little embarrassing between Mukul and me because Mukul shot this film. So,
Oh, you saw it?
so
Yeah.
but never mind. So,
How did you get that, synchronization of that?
not by
Vehicle.
actuality, definitely. Well, it's hugely orchestrated, multiple camera, huge logistic. So how many cars were there?
10. Cars as in semi-mixed trucks,
Uh-huh.
10. One camera on a moving vehicle where Ajay Narona is shooting. I was with you on the road on a tripod following the trucks.
Huge
So-
logistic, rehearsal, and also the light. It has to match the magic hour, this, that. So it's actual. It's not actual. We see the cement mixing car, and we see them often really invading our neighborhoods, the shanty towns, which is near our homes. Every day we see that. But at the same time, as you can see, that is also the soundscape is very contrived. It's not the it's not the ambient sound. Or I'm putting some word sound on it, and so the text, the reality, I'm trying to argue with my audience. I want to argue with my audience is contrived through various memories of seeing images. One is documentary images that we see in our every city all over the world these days, this cement mixing car, mixing them with the war footage, shooting them with lot of formality and using all devices that is available in cinema. So it is performing the real, and it's not really real, but it's also not actual. So these are the games also. I want my audience to know that I contrived. I contrived it painstakingly by taking a whole lot of, I always shoot with big unit. I don't shoot on the run, as you know. And Mukul gets very upset because once in the same film, I wanted a shot which maybe not even there in the film, or even if it is there, it is for 5-6 seconds, that a moving train during the rain in the evening entering the city, and we see the entering the city through the window of the moving train. Now Mukul got very upset one day. 3 consecutive monsoon I sent him to Thane to shoot that window because the window was not rightly in the frame.
She's not exaggerating.
Okay, it's Mukul's story. I actually don't remember. And he said, "अरे यार इंसानों के ऊपर तो तुम कभी नहीं इतना retake करते हो। वो ये window to be taken 3 times." But that's the whole issue because I shoot lot with because that somehow that Méliès's the dust flying motif has gone inside me, and because I'm a student of theatre, so I come from performance. The performance of the inanimate things or non-human things like cement mixing cars, windows, train, vehicles. These things attracts me a lot, and I think that. And these are all actuality images. These are not outside images. But if we can create a contrived performances by assembling various sources and various memories of watching images, because after all, I am making a film when film is already 100 years old, and film is not literature or music that 100 years is nothing. 100 years is infancy. Cinema is such a thing that within 10 years it was old, because it has such an overarching outreach. So as a result, that if we cannot say an image stands by itself, an image stands on the shoulder of various memories of seeing images. We'll have to count
True.
all these things and then think that what this image may tell a story of.
No, absolutely. And I mean, just some small anecdotal detail about this, where the first one of the camera going circular and this bar of a window keeps coming in. The camera is left on time-lapse mode, which is not true time-lapse. It records frames at jerky intervals and so on. And we're in the revolving restaurant at Churchgate overlooking Marine Drive and the sea in the monsoon. So there are bits of it where there's rain on the window, which are not there in the film. But and we had to patawa them to let us shoot. So we pretended we were doing a story on food in the monsoon. So we did fake interviews, which we actually recorded. And the second camera was left pointing outside the window on time-lapse, which is shooting the shot which actually goes into the film. For all you know, if those interviews had turned out well, those might be in the film, might have been in the film, but no, that was not the point. The second one, we made sure we get 10 cars of the same color. and the production manager worked very hard to do that.
Actually, it was
And
very interesting. If you remember, Mukul, because we were also neighbors and we are also friends, and this film is made on short PD
150.
150, 170 camera. So it, sometimes on a Sunday, if it is raining, because mostly the film was shot through 3 monsoons, that we used to call each other and say, ki, I used to drive and he used to sit on the passenger seat and we used to just shoot the city. It was almost like scribbling.
And we used to call each other Maruti 800 Productions. So,
And while doing that, we saw one such white cement mixing car with green border passing us. So like it's a documentary filmmaker's instinct, we started following it. Obviously those are one of those messy, dust flying kind of actuality shot, a very bad shot according to me. Okay, the thing is going out of frame, coming in, it looks very thoroughly and actual and documentary shot, but it was not to go with the aesthetics of this film. So, but that white, against the monsoon sky, that white cement mixing car with a green border, I mean it had to be. In fact, that image made this entire sequence which goes on for 15 minutes in this film, which is about the construction site in today's urban life. Actually that one image has given this. So then we got into this search of where is the company, we need 10 such things, we need it at 5 o'clock in the morning in this particular location where the flyovers are going up, coming down, and so that we can get various labels and all. So it's not that you are completely alienated from the real, but the real is only beginning of the journey, it cannot be end of the journey by itself.
and to answer your question, Joshy, about the timing, there are 2 takes of this with 2 cameras, but it's the first take that's used because very often, as we know, the first take is the one that actually has the right energy, and the right light, because by the time those 10 cement mixers was turn around over a series of one ways and come back, the light had changed.
And the cops arrived.
So, okay, so I think at this rate, we'll go on all night. Let's move to the next clip. Okay.
It's a little longish, 6, and there are people in this clip.
सब पेन ड्राइवर सर इन हरामियों के मुंह में तो जैसे जुबान ही नहीं है। लेकिन ये आपको रात की तारीकी में स्याही के मुख्तलिफ रंग पहचानना सिखा देगा। मुझे चुना है इस शहर के गूंगे बाशिंदों ने अपनी मुफलिसी का अफसाना लिखने के लिए।
सर हमने मतलब बहुत किस्म के आदमी देखा। कोई को बताया कॉफी वाला इधर रुकने का, जब तक मैं ऐसा नहीं करता है तब तक तुम इधर से हिलने का नहीं। अभी जी साहब करके हम रुक जाते हैं। रुकने के बाद फिर उनका दिल में आता है ले सो जा इधर से। इतना टाइम हो गया इधर है तो केव्हा आया काय करतो इकडे। मतलब अपना अपना भाषा, ये मराठी भाषा में बोलते हैं। वो लोग कभी पकड़ते हैं सांप आप ही आया, सांप इधर आ गया, दोबारा नहीं आएगा सांप। तो इतना घूमने के बाद हमको क्या मिलेगा? 20 रुपया मिलता है। तो अगर पुलिस वाला को दे देंगे तो हमको क्या मिलेगा? इसलिए उनके साथ चाहे वो जो भी सजा हवा खोलता चलेगा, लेकिन पैसा कहाँ से देगा? हीरोइन इधर आते हैं, उनके शूटिंग देखते हैं, उनको भी कभी कभी चाय पिलाते हैं। जय की शराब है, जय करना है आपको, अभिषेक बच्चन है, वगैरह वगैरह लोग पीते हैं। आज हम 9 साल से कंटिन्यू नाइट कर रहे हैं। मुंबई सेंट्रल, कमाटीपुरा, कनाड़ी, बिल्ला हाउस, ग्रांड रोड, 2 धंधा करते हैं। बाद में
एक लड़की से चक्कर थोड़ा बहुत हो गया था। मैं चौधरी हूँ, वो यादव जानते हो, वही यादव है। इसी के चक्कर में बोला कि कभी नहीं हो सकता। सब जान गए तो उसका गार्जियन बोले मिलने के लिए नहीं, मेरा भी गार्जियन बाप जी भैया बोले कि ये सब छोड़ दो, मिलना जुलना। हम दोनों फिर भी बात नहीं माने, फिर पकड़ लिया तो मच किया लड़ाई, ऐसा ही टेंशन हुआ। मेरा यहाँ पे जीजा जी रहते हैं, उनको बोला तो वही बोला ठीक है, यहाँ पे लेके आए तो वो जहर खा के मर गए।
तू किधर जाए?
वीडियो से सामने
धंधा नहीं होता क्या इधर आता है? चल भाग।
अभी हमारे गांव में मजदूरी है 15 रुपया, और 15 रुपये का इधर दिल्ली में पानी। वैसा तब थोड़ा गाँव वाला के सामने नज़र में भी ऐसा काम नहीं कर सकते। कोई बोले चाय वाला, तो ये भी बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकते। अब इसीलिए अपना गांव का कोई आदमी नहीं लाया।
अपने घर में क्या बोले, क्या काम करते हैं?
चाय का धंधा करता है, करवाता है, ऐसा नहीं बोलता है हम करते हैं।
बॉम्बे छोड़े गए हैं, बॉम्बे छोड़ता ही नहीं। कितना भी बोलता है कि बॉम्बे से अभी जाएंगे तो आएंगे नहीं वो लौट के। फिर भी देखता हूँ कि याद गया 10 दिन रहे, मात्र 10 दिन, फिर लौट आते हैं बॉम्बे।
Okay, let's. Yeah,
Me only.
of course. Yeah.
No, this Mukul, this is, as you know, that is one of my most favorite sequence, because I think they are lying through their teeth. They are performing. Only they are not performing for anybody else. They are performing for themselves. Obviously, I paid them whatever they could have sold, and much more than that, for 2 nights. We shot for 2 nights. In the course of 2 nights, 3 times they changed their names. Obviously, I don't know their names. And they know that मेरा भी पैसा वसूल होना चाहिए. I mean, I am paying them, so they are not actually selling tea for those 2 nights. They are only performing. There is one camera in their vehicle, which is a spy camera, so you see those low-res images, and 2 cameras actually in a vehicle which we are shooting with. So it's very staged in the sense they know we are shooting. They know we are filmmakers who fancy their life. They also know that if their 2 days of livelihood is depending on my film, my entire livelihood is depending on this film. So better that they are collaborators. We are making a film together for at least for those 2 nights. In that they are to perform, but they are to perform themselves. Now it is their concept of their selves which is coming. Now say tomorrow I meet them, that is after 10 years, oh my God, 10 years, then they will perform themselves completely differently. Because a self is a combination of the current memories of the past and the current desire for the future. It's a combination of that makes you the self which you perform. So since your desire for the future is likely to alter, your perception of the memory of the past is also likely to change. So according to me, if we really follow a character for a few years and ask the same question again and again, every time we'll get a different answer.
And you're very right about this, sorry to interject, that I met that boy again at the Gateway of India. I had taken a friend to the Gateway of India, and I ran after him saying, Santosh, Santosh, and he did not reply because that was not his name.
Obviously.
You know?
Obviously. I mean, why? And that interests me. I'm not interested in what they are. I'm not interested in the extremely filmy story of girlfriend committing suicide is true or not. Like, it's 50% likely to be true, it's 50% likely to be the script that he has come with to Bombay to make a film on, maybe, which everybody comes to. I mean, this is such an oft repeated story that it could be real and actual and could be completely fabricated, but also based on some actuality.
But if you, you can also completely have a completely earnest reading that this is about caste and migration and livelihood and migration and everything, an image of yourself here, image of yourself there, how you project yourself to your family and to yourself.
So, I think that what interests me, I kept it. I could have not keep it also, if I really do not believe in it. It's a question of I believe it or not. It's a question of that night when he and I and you are collaborating to make a film, so that hum sabki roti roji chale, that night he decided to tell me this story. He could have told 5 other stories. So his choice of telling this story, fabricated or not, life story or not, his choice is my subject.
But come on,
the story is not my subject.
we are always asking leading questions, aren't we? You know? So
but this story, if you remember, he said on his own.
He said on his own.
It was too filmy a story for me to ask a question.
And you wouldn't ask that question. You would never ask that question.
Him, girlfriend
you did? Okay, I don't remember.
Yeah. But no, of course, I will try to always make a film. Now my protagonists also want me to make a film because I don't shoot on the run. I tell them, kafi tamjham hai, as you can see, that spy camera hai, radio mic hai, 2 vehicles running, this, that. So it's not that I catch the truth on the run.
Why this spy camera?
Spy camera because I wanted to, it is part of the performance of the film. Actually, if you remember that all the shots that we have taken are from the back, they are going. For us, we have fancied this lifestyle. And all the frontal shots are mostly from the spy camera. Why was spy camera? But now testing me after 10 years anyway. It is that they knew fully well that they are actually facing a camera. They are literally facing.
No, it was also to do with the low-res image of surveillance of forever being looked at.
And that is the time surveillance was not all that in circulation, and surveillance images has not entered our theoretical discourse, not fully. I mean, it was there, but not so fully. So surveillance was one aspect, but the main aspect why this is my favorite sequence, not everybody's, because they think it's a bit of a messy, too many kinds of shots and this and that, hardly anything on sync because good shots are not in sync and this and that. But it's my favorite in the sense I wanted to build a kind of argument over this right to performance of the self, of the protagonist, and contradict it at your whims and fancies. Say, मैंने ये नहीं बोला. Often this kind of question are asked, it was asked to somebody in the morning. It's the most common question to ask to any documentary filmmaker. Have you gone back to showing the film to the protagonist or not? To Vani. I never go back to show the film to my protagonist. I am not making a film about their life. I am making an argument. For some time we come together in collaboration. There is something for them into it. That's why they do. I pay my protagonist whenever I can for the time that they give me. For that time, it's not paying them to buy them, but I'm taking their time and I should pay because they lose their livelihood or whatever it is. And I don't spend much time with my protagonists. I don't know them very well. I know it's blasphemous for a documentary filmmaker to say, because first encounter or early encounters are full of lot of imagination. You trust, you don't really trust. It's like a romance, you know, it's like a one night romance. It's like little performance, little truth, little vulnerability, little getting unmasked, quickly wearing mask. That, according to me, brings lots of texture and energy to the film, to the testimony. And my audience are not stupid. They will read through all these layers of performances, and that is the reality I'm interested in. That may not be real, that may not be actual. Everybody wants to be a Shah Rukh Khan. I cannot make them Shah Rukh Khan, but I shoot with lot of elaboration, light, crane, this, that. Even if I don't use, many times Mukul says, why you ask for all these things? Madhu, we don't need it. I said, no. I want to make them feel good for a day that I'm also facing camera. I'm important. There's light for me. There is somebody who is doing little bit. I sometimes carry jackets so that you also look good. When I shot with bar dancers, when they were actually starving, when dance bars got closed, somebody wrote a review and saying, can't imagine these women are starving, and instead of going to their dilapidated houses and showing their poverty, she shoots them at that time with all their fineries. My logic to that is that the fineries, with all their fully decked up in the same film, I mean, we are not showing that sequence. Well, my argument is that it has been stopped, and that is the most glorious life that they want us to know about, or at least I want to know about. They will talk their poverty if they choose it, but I will present them in their best attire. I go to a public place with my best attire. I have no right to present them in their chitras. Well, we can argue till the rest of our life over this, but that has been my strategy, is that allow your protagonist to perform, and if you want to lie, then lie through your teeth as much as you want. Lie can also be a nice narrative.
I'd like to bring in Joshy. Joshy, your film about the hangman, about that much publicized episode, where again you are foregrounding this performativity, and you are really pushing the limits of what is considered, how much should you intervene, not intervene, what is ethical for a documentary filmmaker, for a reality, for an actuality situation, and so on. And he is performing, and you encourage him to perform, where it's his job.
How much he performs.
It's his job. That's what he does. His job is to hang convicts. It's a very controversial case and very problematic and everything. But your job is something else as a filmmaker, and how you give him that space to perform, which is, it has very direct connections with what we're talking about here. So unfortunately, we don't have a clip of that film here. But is there something you'd like to read?
It's there on YouTube. One day from a hangman's life.
One day from a hangman's life.
But why don't you just tell the synopsis?
Do you want to do that?
No. So anyway, it's interesting that we'll connect it with what we are sharing a forum like this for the first time. So I have seen her films, but the technique behind it, it is fresh now, which is absolutely opposite what I do. I really don't want them to know.
Okay.
In the sense, not that I have a hidden camera, but definitely I have a hidden agenda. So my camera is very open, but my agenda is hidden. Now, how do you really negotiate? A hangman who was 84 years old in 2004 when this hanging happened in Calcutta, he was all over the media. He was telling why the other fellow, the convict, should be hanged. So he is no more a hangman, the hidden face of the system. He is very much the spokesperson. Now, from the television clips, I could make out that he is a great actor. By then, in all these 24 hours, news channels came, so he will be giving them the bite which they are expecting by a payment. So he made a list for television 2,000, print media 1,000, documentary 10,000.
Seriously?
Yeah. Not a Malik.
Not a Malik, yes.
So you go there and then he's a complete performer. You can't really handle him. Now I know that I am performing something. So what I did is only I told him that I am doing it like a channel. So all channel wala.
Yeah.
So I am also channel wala. But my cameraman, who looks like a terrorist, who is there from Kerala. Now you cannot really ignore him because he looks strange from the crowd. Now the hangman, he is a very interesting character. Started liking his thadi and his looks, Razak. Although when the moment he comes to know that we are shooting more, and he will quarrel with us, but after a point he knows that we are shooting, so he will look at Razak and tell him, shoot karo, all those things. So we were planning only for just a half an hour film, but it became an 83 minutes thing because this performative thing I have confessed in the film. I am here performing like a channel wala. My Razak, cameraman, performing. He is performing. Buddhadev Bhattacharya performing. So the then Chief Minister, West Bengal, who banned the film, and things like that. So I had no clue till we reached there, and then like I met him only once because I did not want to really familiarize much. So when we started shooting, I saw that he is developing a sort of relationship with the cameraman. So instead of me and the hangman, me, hangman and the cameraman. So I made a triangle, and I made it part of the narrative. So I mean, anyway, every film you do, like Gautam Sen, it's a new thing. You can't, because every human being is a mystery. You go there thinking that I will do like this. By the time you reach there, like these malaria mosquitoes, becoming immune to all the malaria medicine. By the time you reach there with your formula, it is immune. They will develop something. Now, on the spot, you have to do something.
And that's a documentary thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you that that actor there in the boat. So you are admitting that you are using an actor.
Oh, throughout he comes many times. Film is them. These other people, actual people, come and go. But there are two actors who actually tell the stories. So admitting, of course, starring so and so. I
because
use
all the time,
kinds of
my worry. My worry is that the moment you do that, although the simile you use from the theatre, unless and until I accept the set as the Mughal architect, I don't really enter into the play. But the same thing when I shoot in the film, you need a believability. If the paint is fresh, then then it's bad art direction. So you need little more believability, even when you are admitting that the entire thing is enacted, constructed. So I found that when you use
that's why my films are very uneasy films, because they everybody says this, but they are not really documentaries. Who cares? I make films, I create narratives, okay, and this believability, this convention of belief is what my subject is. That is what I want to counter in all my films. So that actually is my primary agenda in all my films. Then there's secondary agenda, which is the particular, sometimes it's bhakti, sometimes it's metropolis, sometimes it's, that's my secondary agenda. But my primary agenda is to dismount this whole religion of belief that goes with the performance of documentary. So that's my subject actually. So what he was saying is the witness of my film, I'm saying that's my agenda. But profound बोल दिया अब कुछ बोल
मैं चुप हो गया. So
Joshy, what happens that in a panel when you say these things, it gets unnecessarily empathic. It's not as strong as I'm saying it, because now we are arguing, so I'm saying it. Obviously, it has to be. It depends on your narrative skill. You can question convention, but we're making a screen narrative, so it has to be narratively communicatable, believable. So narrative must have the strength. So these two characters actually, it looks like you have not seen the film.
No, I have seen this film.
Two protagonists who are again actual characters. Ismat Chugtai and Sadat Hasan Manto, who are very famous writers. So I am getting two actors to act as Chugtai and Manto, but they are not Chugtai and Manto because they are acting as 2005 characters. Chugtai and Manto died long back. So they are also, I am taking some actual characters, invoking the memories of that characters, those literary characters, using actors. So there are many other things. I know it become messy very often, and that brings us to melodrama, if you are interested.
So we'll take one more clip from you.
One more clip?
Yeah. And then we'll run
should we
Joshy's
show the
clip.
Berhampara clip, that women clip, and with the 7 Islands?
You choose.
Okay. So here I am, so this again going back to it, this is a journey which I am sharing with you through films. So my first film has this, I never wanted to be a documentary filmmaker, I wanted to be an actress. I'm a graduate of National School of Drama. So I couldn't find a director, so I had to become a director. Then I couldn't find a producer, so I had to become a producer. Then I didn't find a audience, so I had to become a pedagogue, and things like that. It's like, you may have heard this story of Kopin Kavaste, you know, to save some sadhu's Kopin. How, you know that story, no? Okay, I'll tell the story. It's interesting, much more interesting than my film. There was one sadhu who had only one langot. So after having bath, he used to put it out on dry. One rat came and ate it up. So, and literally only one langot he had, so he got very upset. So he got a cat. Now he cannot. He got a cat to kill the rat. Now he could not concentrate on meditating because the cat going mew mew because he is hungry. Oh, rat is not enough for him. So he had to get a. It's a very sexist look. He had to get a cow. Now cow now is going to a neighbor's field and eating up their vegetables. So neighbors are coming and not letting him meditate. So he got a wife. Okay, so my case is like that. So I'm an accidental filmmaker, as you know.
On that note, let's see more of
So
that.
this film is in 1992-93. There was riots in Bombay. I had no choice. I was pushed by fate and the nation to become a documentary filmmaker, and I shot on a Muslim populated slum called Behrampara, which was under threat of being completely erased. So there are few, I mean, I was interested in gender, but there was no articulation of gender in documentary filmmaking other than it is a gendered issue, like it is domestic violence or rape or something. But you don't bring gender into, in those days, into the mainstream concerns, non-gendered concern, that is citizenship concern and nationality concern. Not that I thought about it very consciously, but now when I look back. So now pushed to make this film, I wanted to make Bollywood films. I was doing as apprenticeship when my friend said, what are you doing for so long? Please shoot this slum because it will be erased, so we'll have evidence. So I started my journey with documentary with evidence. So my job was to collect evidence so that Behrampara does not get razed by Shiv Sena because it was a prime real estate. But I told them that I want to shoot with the oldest resident of the slum. I want to see that. And it so happened, it was my luck, she turned out to be an 82 years old woman. I couldn't have ordered it, you know, with all my fiction obsession, I couldn't have asked it has to be a woman, but she was an 82 years old woman. And when I went to interview her, I realized that she came to Bombay, she came to Behrampara in 48. And the typical middle class secularist in me was like happy that 48, so I'll get now a overarching nationalist narrative on communalism. Film to ban gayi. With one interview, the film is ready, and she said many things, which is not synonymous to my secularist history of the nation. And I missed it. I was too young. I missed it, and the film was made on the regular secularist line, and it bothered me for 12 years. And so when I'm making Seven Islands after 12 years, I refer to that. So these are the three quick small, I gave you the background. So first two shots are testimonial shots from Behrampara and how finally I thought that I understood those testimonies and I could create a visual culture around those testimonies. It took me 12 years. So that will be the third clip. One after another they can
so we can run them in a sequence, Kunal, and then move on.
जब सुन में आई अभी कितने साल हो गया बोलिए आप लोगों को पता है, अभी बोलिए 40 और 8 अभी 40 और 8 हो तभी 5 साल का था। कैसा था ये प्रोग्राम देखने में तभी? जब इस वक्त में यहाँ 4 झोपड़े थे, 4 झोपड़े, केरा बाई थी, एक माई थी और वामी भी बोलते वो थी और वो किस्ती की माँ मर गई, किरिस्तानी वो थी बस। केरा बाई के पास भैंस थी, इधर भी खाली थी, उधर भी खाली थी, बीच में इतनी सी जगह थी।
आप लोग रहते कैसे?
बीच में जगह थी ना, जरा सी भरनी डाल डाल के लिए, खड्डे थे, सब खाली थी। रेवड़ा के पत्थर ला के, इधर से मट्टी ला के, वो मसाले वहाँ से मट्टी ला के, इधर से मट्टी ला ला के सब खाली भर गए।
किसने डाला ये?
हमारे खुद भरे हमने अपने हाथों से।
उन्होंने जहाँ रहते हैं
उधर
उसके ऊपर भरनी डाल के
नहीं, आज तुम भरे, मैं भरी आया, ये भरे, वो आया, वो भरे, ऐसा सब पब्लिक जमा होते गए, भरते गए, ये जगह होती गई।
अरे ऊपर से शरीफ दिखते हैं साले, अंदर बम बनाने का फैक्ट्री चला रखा है।
चारों तरफ से तुम गुलाम करते, जुल्म करते हो, ऊपर से बदनाम का तुम नाम बदनाम करते हो, क्यों करते हो? हम लोग ने आज तक तुम लोगों को क्या दुख दिया? बताओ, हमने कौन सा कोई काम पर नहीं जा रहा है, सब रोजी से बेरोजी, बड़े बड़े कारखाने ठप हो गए। हम तो मर्द नहीं है, 10 रुपया कमाने वाले, आप 2 महीने से घर में बैठ गए। कभी मट्टी उठाते हो, कभी मच्छी बेचते हो, कभी केला बेचते हो। मेरे 5 बच्चे हैं, हम कैसे गुजरान करें? आप बताओ। ना कोई माँ का आसरा है, ना कोई बाप का आसरा है, ना कोई बहन का आसरा है। जहाँ जाओ गोली चलती है, जहाँ जाओ आदमी पकड़ते, जहाँ जाओ ये सब लफड़े सुन के हम एक औरत जात क्या कर सकती है यहाँ पर? हमारे बाद भाई का काम चले तो हम बोले भाई लाओ 150 दो, तो आज उससे भी हम मजबूर हो गए। जिसके देखो अच्छे अच्छे कारोबार वाले मजबूर हो गए। हमारा आदमी बाहर नहीं जा सकता है, पुलिस से शक में पकड़ कर लेकर जाती है। बाहर निकलने का कोई इलाज नहीं देते हैं, कारोबार बंद हो गए, अच्छे अच्छे दुकानें बंद हो गई, यहाँ की हर चीज से तकलीफ हो गई। क्यों तुम तकलीफ देते हो? हमारे लोगों ने तुम्हें क्या दुख दिया? अगर तुम इसी तरीके से तनाकोरी हम लोगों से रखोगे तो तुम्हें भी यही रहना है, हमें भी यही रहना है। तुम भाई, हम भाई, तुम बहन, हम बहन, दूसरे के चढ़ाने में तुम ना इत्तेफाकी डाल के तब तक रहोगे। ये इस देश को क्यों बर्बाद करने के चक्कर में पड़ेगा? हमें इसका जवाब चाहिए।
So we shall quickly tie this up and move to Joshi's clip
Just one
because we have a
sentence. That's it. Then we'll go there. Well, to end it dramatically, this is my way of contriving the real through melodrama. Just extremely melodramatic way. Finally, I could resolve those testimonies, which always left me very unhappy after Berampara, because she said, "मैं थी, अमीर भी थी, किश्तू की माँ खिरिस्तानी मर गई, किलाबाई और किलाबाई की 4 भाई." That means in the entire settlement there were 4 women and 2 buffaloes. That is a choice of memory. It couldn't be. No way it can be, but that's what she remembers. Of 48, in 1993 she is talking about 48, there were 4 friends, 1 Christian, 2 Muslim, 1 Hindu and 2 buffaloes. I mean, it's a feminist manifesto, it's a secularist manifesto, it can be anything, it's really quotable quote, it's an iconic statement. But I used it for a very simple reason of bashing up Shivsena in that film. So it took me 12 hours to actually get a visual.
12 years.
12 years. 12 hours or 12 years. To actually say that, so the well-being of the city, of the nation is in their hand. They take out a pilgrimage and they wish. I mean, that is the time, if you remember, this was made in 2005, everybody was trying to save the Muslim women. Muslim women are the lowest in the ladder. Everybody had the responsibility and there was a fight, who is the real rescuer of the Muslim women. That is the time. So again, challenging the discourse is by putting the entire nation's or at least the city's well-being in their hand. Only they can protect it. That's the only way I could respond to the old women after so many years. Yeah, that's it. And melodrama is the only form that can help you in that.
Therefore, the Anu Malik song and
Yeah.
Mere Watan.
Yes, yes.
That image is very overpowering, that women, walking in the parda. It's a very overpowering, so I make amends to the earlier one, which did not work with me, but this is something, as an image, it tells more than what I see. It's a wonderful one.
I just feel as a cameraman too much smoke in that shot, but sorry, that's my hangover. But coming to you, Joshi, I'm very fascinated by the fact that you always place yourself in your film, very visibly so, and so again foregrounding yourself, highlighting your subjectivity, in your subject, and especially in the poeticity in a footballer film, and it's again very interesting for me that you, being from Kerala, settled in Calcutta, and have completely engaged with and placed yourself in that context of Bangalipana, which shows where you're talking about that entire sequence about playing Rabindra Sangeet at the crossing, where you say that people in Calcutta don't have traffic sense, but they have good music sense, because when the signal is red, we play Rabindra Sangeet, And there's
Mamata Banerjee has put, in all the traffic signals, Rabindra Sangeet, so.
Yeah, and that statue of Netaji on a horse turning around to look, and people actually falling over each other while crossing that street. That film screens Sunday evening. We'll check the schedule and tell you what time. And the very layering in that film, where Gautam Sen is supposed to be making a film on P.K. Banerjee, and he falls ill, and you enter that space and make a film about him making a film about P.K. Banerjee, and he passes away at the end of the film. So these multiple layers that are working. So there are 2 layers of filming that are happening. You filming with 2 cameras, Gautam Sen shooting with his own unit, which again appears time and again in the film. So I find all these multiple threads very, they make for this story, very, very interesting storytelling, So yeah, do you want to talk, would you like to talk about it, screen a clip and then discuss?
Yeah, we'll talk about it after screening the film. It's vulgar to talk about the film without showing it to you. Now, you have seen it, so you have all the right to ask me. I am interested in very bizarre things, and naturally get attracted to it. Like today, one of the very bizarre thing which I heard from my mother India, that Sardarji, that father, the old man, he goes mad and then he starts enacting
1947.
And so what she was telling, when she was narrating about this enactment, he was in that stage of madness or maybe lack of memory, enacting in a very stylized manner. A mad person, how can you be stylized enactment? It can be. It struck with me. Fantastic. I would like to elaborate such moment. When one gentleman asks you that why did you end your film with the dance, then people laughed. So the immediate reaction from him, I did not expect people to laugh. Now, I like such moments, and then he also repeats this thing, I don't know why people are laughing. See, we leave out all these things and sanitize, our films in the name of, because we are worried if you go too much like this, will the idea be conveyed? Will your producer, pass the rough cut? Now, somewhat, I am free from all these worries because I get my salary check from films division. Now, I did not know this. It's not that I started like a formula. So the person, the producer about whom you were talking in the in one of our today, sessions. I don't want to name him. So every time he comes and sees my rough cut, he's confused. Then he will bring 2-3 stenographers with him. And at that time it was in the Steenbeck. So without any commentary, what you can hear is only the running noise of the Steenbeck. So now they go very, they go absolutely nuts if they don't really hear an overpowering commentary, overpowering the Steenbeck working noise. So they settle down and they also sleep. If there is a commentary, the producer will sleep. You get a rough cut pass and things like that. Now, so he is a Parsi gentleman. So he saw my first rough cut which won the national award some 20 years back, thrice. He will bring more and more people to really see, whether it makes any sense. And so finally I told him, you better pass it, otherwise I am going to really walk out. That film won a national award. Cut to Delhi. So we are all having drinks. So this fellow is telling me, you remember rough cut? I said, sir, you remember you are bringing more and more stenographers to interpret my rough cut. So that winning the national award became some sort of a bargaining power for me. So the next time I show him a rough cut, he is confused. Sir, national award. So he passes it. At that time, producer is a designation in films division. I think I am going to be suspended. Now, so now that designation is changed. So President of India thinks that this poor fellow puts money from his pocket and produces the film and gives him an award. Because it goes by name. If I am the producer, even after my retirement, I will go and receive the award as a producer with other private producers from the industry. So I told him, now I have to tell his the name. So I told him,
We don't want you to get suspended.
He's a retired man now. So.
now there is a joke won't work, that's why.
Okay.
So his name has this engineer in the name. So I told him the President of India is thinking, you are an engineer by profession, making money and putting it for the cause of good cinema, and you went and received the awards that year 4 times. 4 times, and the nation stands and then claps. So I found this is a theatre of the upside, that these people, you can really negotiate with them. What was your question?
My question was layering and placing yourself in your film, and it's very, for me it's very important and interesting that, your mandate is to make the state version of history, and politics and issues and so on.
And get it passed by,
and get it passed by the producer and stenographers.
And also censor board.
And censor board, of course, the
Censor board
ultimate.
तो ये सब का है.
हाँ, तो वो सब है, and then to be able to and to have your own personal voice.
So all my Umberto Eco, he had the greatest collection of books. So he said that he collected more of Ptolemy than Galileo, because more or less Galileo was writing the truth, and he was interested in Ptolemy and Ptolemy's books. So so there is a Ptolemy and Galileo, in my film division and non-film division entity. Which is the Galileo, which is the Ptolemy, is still debated. Now, so it's, I am seeing the other side of the, the game. That now, today, after seeing your film, I thought that, that you are floating. It's a fantastic visual. But I told it to you, the moment you tell me that I took a selfie and thereafter show me the visual, it loses the vitality. Now you did not want to do it because External Affairs Ministry will not give you the money. So you have to do. Now what I mean to say, I am seeing a real filmmakers struggling to really make their film with the taxpayers' money, and these people, they really think that they have a constitutional sanction to practice mediocrity. Only when you make something different, they will remind you, oh, taxpayers का money से experiment करता है.
You see, I'll say something. we have a friend, Mukul and I, and many of you also may know visual artist Kaushik Mukhopadhyay. Kaushik Mukhopadhyay is a mess of an artist, okay, very brilliant. He works with small machines, and he will not work with machines which are good, branded and guaranteed. So he will go to Chor Bazaar and some pirated version, because that's his aesthetic, that's his politics, some pirated version of machines which within 24 hours will not work. He will go replace them, audience will complain, gallerist will yell at him. That's all part of the art making. And unfortunately, Christoph is not here, so I can say we took him to Berlinale and he made one such thing called bioscope which never ran. So that is Kaushik Mukhopadhyay. And what he does, other than this, that making mess of a project by using the pirated, second-rate, available on the street machines, he makes his installation such a way that you can see the whole mechanism. He shares the whole mechanism, and that's part of his art making. That whatever he is doing now, the magic that ye dabao to ye ho jayega, you pull this and that will happen, and he will show you the whole mechanism how it works. And if he works, he doesn't work most of the time. If he works as an artist, then he works only because of this strategy. So some people will not, and some people will want to say ki, why I am doing it and how I am doing it. That can be part of the narrative, but that cannot be. You can also play the game, guess how it is done. That's also fun. So it can be both ways, no?
So I think we'll move on to we have two clips from Joshi's films.
No, we'll see the first clip and then we'll decide whether to see the second clip.
No, anyway, which
So
one?
one after another name.
Yeah, this 6-minute actually independent film in itself, which of course is part of a long film which I am doing with my son. From the age of 4 I started shooting him, so now he's 20 years old. And so let's see this and then.
Which one we have to, what is it called?
Serendipity cinema. Serendipity cinema.
Come.
Open it up.
Didi, now I should tell you the truth.
Yes.
So this cinema, the time which I am shooting now,
Yes.
is about cinema.
Yes.
So I want to look at cinema through Ozu's eyes.
Yes.
So that is why I want him to speak out. What does he think about cinema?
Yes.
fiction is not, as he thinks, unreal. Is he unreal? He is real. He is also. You are Madhusree Devi, I am Joshy. The person behind the camera is Manish.
Yes.
And the person who is recording is Suresh Kumar. That girl who is making the sound, Joy's daughter.
Yes.
This book written by Madhusree Devi, everything real, tangible.
Yes.
So, it's not that we are running away from reality.
No.
But he thinks, unfortunately,
That we are running away from reality.
yes, if I make a fiction film.
I feel very shy, once you show something like this, then.
You edited the full film. You said it is
No,
work in
actually,
progress.
this because there is not even ₹1 film division spent on this. They were doing an experimental filmmaking workshop for which they did not invite me, saying that whatever you make is experimental. So why you come? So I protested. I said, then I will send a cut without participating in the workshop. Consider me as Ekalavya. And then
What are you as?
Ekalavya.
Ekalavya, okay.
So this is something which I shot with my own money, and then it is a work in progress, a fiction film. Then I sent this, and it won the first award, and all others went against me. Oh, how can he come and this? So this is a cut which I made only for challenging them, and so this is a.
It's wonderful, but it's very Mallu. Very Mallu.
No, but all those questions about fiction and non-fiction, and referencing Ozu and your son and Mahashweta Devi and so on.
My son's name is Ozu.
Your son's name is Ozu.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
I was looking for the Ozu reference, and I'm like, I can't see Ozu, but yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
So I decided, the film which I had to shoot. I'm also going, after your thank you for the ticket, going to Kasaravali, village, because that house is still there intact. The house in which is shot Kadashratha, which I find, completely magical.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I want to develop it as a sort of, magical space without defining the context, as if it is suspended, and then so I decided what to name the film.
So in the film there is no actors?
Yeah, except my son, all others acted, but now who is the son, who is actor, I don't want to really.
No.
In the sense that is what actually I am trying to.
That's the main form of it.
Yeah, that is a form of it.
Wonderful.
So should we watch the next clip? So,
Yeah, so
And-
that's
yeah,
a different
and-
story altogether. I mean, this is again, I am involved with time, no?
No, I was just telling him, if you want to open it up.
Yeah.
After this, then we'll open
Yeah,
it up
we'll
for.
open it up. So I mean, I make all kinds of films. So the next one is, of course, a political film. Now, this was done when Kundu was around, and there was a lot of arguments, and finally the film was passed, and they only did not want me to really identify that it happens in Manipur. So it's a strange thing, which I shot with PD 170 for show it to my cameraman, and then we wanted to go back and shoot, but by then what you are going to see does not exist, so it's no more there. So only my footage, PD 170 40 minutes footage, so out of which I made this film. We'll see this.
Okay.
It's only a 3 minutes film.
Yeah, let's do that. That's absolutely, absolutely beautiful, Joshi.
And you shot
It's
it.
really very, very, very
Oh.
beautiful. I think.
And you say it is your research.
This is absolutely beautiful.
It's a rich man's poverty.
So, I mean, do you want to say, tell us a bit about it before we open it up to questions? So,
See, I am involved with Manipur for the last, I am in Kolkata for the last 18, 19 years, so I am involved with it, almost the same, of the same duration. And I am going to say with the complete sense of responsibility, what we talk about sedition today, and of course sedition can be interpreted this way or that way. Armed Forces Special Powers Act, AFSPA, is the lawless law which is existing in this country. You are really giving just the lowest ranking official of any armed force to shoot and kill on suspicion, not by track record, not by your past, foreseeing your future, sculpting in time, shoot and kill. So you give the license to kill and right to life to the citizen. It cannot really go one by, side by side. It cannot go together. Either you give license to kill or don't tell me that you have right to life. So this Manipur story all the time, I mean, I really go helpless. Not because of films division thing and all. I make films in other avatars also when I am not able to do it in film division. So this blood and gory story, which very effectively was done in Pavan's film, AFSPA, because it was a collection of all the footages done by all the newsreel cameramen over a period of time. So first time I got to see something very outrightly political. Now I have a problem with the film. You don't really see anybody from the Indian Army doing these atrocities. Everything is now outsourced to Manipuri commandos. And the Manipuri commandos who are seen in the film take pride in the fact that they are seen in the film. Same year, when Pavan's film won the best non-fiction award
at MIF,
National Award. Okay. National Award. The same year, the same president gave the highest number of gallantry awards to all the armed forces people from Northeast. So these are all the moments when you feel that the idiom of non-fiction. You have to really make it little beyond to hit and run and make even the other side people reflect if you are a human being. So I mean that's what. Am I speaking too much?
No. I mean, I would love to continue this conversation and see much more of your work.
So in see that now the constable who had confessed now that I shot Sanjeev. So Rebina, who was a pregnant lady who was shot dead, and so I avoided the body and then kept that and then zoomed in. So there I had in the earlier cut put Imphal, Manipur and the date. So they said, this we will get into trouble. So I said I have to identify the place. So Mr. Kundu came up with a very creative suggestion. He said, identify the swan and the old man from Imphal, Manipur. That will connect the things. So
no, and for me that's fascinating, Joshi, what you say, because within the state, making narratives that are critical of the state, you finally choose the language of subversion, you choose diversion, you choose film form, to make your dissent registered, That's what you do, and that is something that when we are talking about periods in the history of films division filmmaking where filmmakers were encouraged to make films which are critical, and you realize that very often you can't make a straight critique, but you use these other devices to do it, and I find that very, very fascinating because you're forced to invent in that case.
Yeah.
So
see, like how the Iranian films became a craze, when the entire state during the time of celluloid, even to get the Rostov, you had to get the clearance from the Ministry of Culture, the script. So naturally, you go for the parable, metaphor, and
Absolutely.
so all those, filmmakers became real names in the world cinema because they had, it was a dead end for them.
Actually, that is why I got so irritated in the morning session when the censorship discussion was going on and on, that for all our artistic and political failure, we cannot all the time put a scapegoat called censor. Censor is very bad, censor should not be this, that. But if we are artists, what the name, then we should come up with languages to do that. And otherwise, always my baab censor doesn't allow us, so we have never become an adult. So that's why I got irritated. Exactly what he said.
No, and what that filmmaker at the end of my film also says in China, that sometimes I feel that documentary filmmakers are the thekedars of telling the truth here. Where we're not allowed to do it, but we feel responsible and we feel angry about it, and that anger is important in us.
Yeah.
So it's one helpless, self-reflexive moment where
that is also true, but that anger has also become the commodity.
Honestly,
it's a self-criticism that what we are selling is that our frustration and our anger, and that is and so the criticality of our own work we are not developing, we are not sharing with our peer, with everything. The state is oppressive, there is censorship, there is nobody sees our films, market doesn't distribute. So that's why we do whatever we do. So critically, lack of criticality is always hidden through this anger pose.
Sure. I feel the discussion is just beginning, but I think we need to wind up.
Yeah.
So I'd like to invite questions, comments. So please, just wait for a mic, please. Yeah. Okay.
When your dust flying syndrome was pretty interesting, but I was just wondering, you said that people don't want to see people performing because they had already seen people performing in opera. But then I was wondering, they might have seen dust flying as well, they might have seen a plane flying as well. And even if that was...
We are talking about 1896.
Okay,
we are talking about this time.
Yeah, even if
that story was true of 1896.
But dust flying? Didn't dust fly in 1890?
Represented,
okay,
not on theatre. You're seeing it on a moving image which is fake, which is a recreation of something which is meant to be real. So,
and even if that was true, but then over a period of time, like now, people don't get excited when they see a moving train, but they used to. But then, very soon we would run out of these inanimated moving objects.
So what are you
It is
asking?
a metaphor. Dust flying is a metaphor. I am not saying literally you sitting here expecting me in Seven Islands and a metro to fly some dust. You are expecting something equivalent to flying dust, which is equivalent to 21st century. Late 19th century, it was dust flying. It is something else for us, but we are looking for truth, real. So that was only a metaphor. I am not asking you to literally look for dust.
Okay. And for you, Joshy, it's a very vague question and not a lot related to the topic of the discussion. Then in your first clip, you thanked Amit Chaudhary as well. What was that for?
Because I picked up that word from him, serendipity. Oh. And he has got almost copyrighted that word. So.
Okay, good one.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine.
Rahul.
Okay, one, thank you. All three of you have been very articulate and a lot of food for thought. I just want to, I'm trying to actually wrap my head around some of the phrases and some of the stuff that all of you have used and said, because they're all really key, I think, to all what work we do and how we think about it. Madhu, I'm very interested in this idea that, you present about contrived performance. I'm trying to understand the difference between performance and contrived performance. What is this territory which, these two different kinds of performances occupy? One, I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Also, talking about performance, I'm trying to think as to what you're referring to as performance is really performance or not. I would think that it's not performance, but it's something else which is happening, which I would think is really a certain use of speech and action to create a certain identity. which I don't think is really performance. It's something else which is being presented. The other thing is about, suppose, this, of course, this discussion, I think, about realism and real and can go on and on, will go on forever. But what I find, suppose we were to replace the term real with truth. Now, of course, there's one argument which we can go on making that there is no truth, there are several truths, and, but we know there is something called truth. In that sense, what is that real? Then is
I did not give anti-national slogan is a truth.
No,
yeah,
I'm not.
Can be doctored. No, I'm saying,
I'm just
I
saying,
agree with you.
I'm just trying to sort of, that through our work, when we are talking about the real, similarly, we know something is a documentary, something is not. Now where and how do you negotiate this? I think that to me, one argument that seems, at least to me, what seems very valid under the current sort of scenario is that actually the object has changed of films. What we are dealing with is that the object is the film itself rather than the outside, the truth, the real or whatever.
No, I think they all coexist here. They always have, and they've always coexisted where, different kinds of different ways of telling those stories where.
No, I'm not talking about different ways. I'm saying that there is something called the object of when you're making a film or when you're trying to, say whatever you're trying to say. I'm saying that actually what we are seeing probably now is the object has become the film itself and the language of film itself that you're locking horns with, rather than actually the real, unreal, or whatever. So dialogue is happening internally, rather than a dialogue which is trying to reach something called the real or the truth. That's a proposition I'm making.
No, of course, no. Okay. I agree with you. I mean, I may not arrive there in the same through the same path that you are taking, but I would definitely agree with where you are arriving at. But I would only, first you asked me a question, so let me reply. I used it very loosely, maybe I shouldn't have, that performance and contrived performance. But well, for the sake of this particular discussion, let's put it this way. When one is that I actually use actors, okay, not always, but in this particular film that we talked about, I actually use that. And they are very stylized, very different, they're lit differently, they're shot differently than the cinema varieté protagonist or the sequences are shot. So that can be contrived because they're also mouthing somebody else's dialogue. But a performance, by simple performance, I meant performance of the self which I give to the documentary characters, because I don't give them the dialogue, but I give them the enough space and enough tamjham, enough logistic to perform what they consider their self of the moment should be. So they become a kind of author, biographer, and dialogue writer. That's anyway. But I'm more interested in what you are proposing about. Ultimately, there is a truth, absolutely. And even if I make a film on love or music, I'm a political filmmaker. I'm a political artist. I may not make film. I've not made a film for the longest time anyway, so I've become former filmmaker. But I consider myself as a political artist. So I have a huge truth agenda on my head. I mean, ठेका लेके रखा है, as Mukul says. मैं तो definitely ठेका लेके रखा है, देश का, world का, सबका. Whether anybody has given me the ठेका is not is another matter. So there I will say, but I would demand from my audience that they arrive at the truth. I am no prophet to help them by giving them the truth. I am making a journey. You can be with me or not with me in the journey, but arrive at the truth at your own risk through your own sweating. My problem with some of my works, my contemporary, my friends' works, is that ये ठेका मत लो कि you will give people the truth, or you will help them at least by exposing the truth to them. truth has to be arrived at, and that's an exercise, and each and every audience, I'm very demanding of my audience. Audience is no less demanding on me, so I'm very demanding on my audience. I don't want somebody to just casually see my film, and of course they'll be bored. I make very boring films.
Many questions, many questions, but Shubha has told me many times that we need to end now because because they need to shut down. So shall we carry these questions with us out and in our heads and discuss over the next few days also? Like I said, the discussion is warming up, but I'll have to call it closed now. Thank you very much, Joshi and Madhu, for being with us.
Thank you.
And I really feel we have raised some interesting questions which we shall continue to engage with, you know. And thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being patient and supportive. I hope so. Okay. Thank you.